we've been saying that we thought that at some point the price of silver could spike back up to $50. And we've been saying that we thought that could happen at some point in the future. Well, as time has progressed, that projection is now this year in the next quarter. I mean, we would not be surprised to see the price at $48 or $50 an ounce, at least briefly, at some point in the next 3 months.
Silver lining in radical times with Monex and CPM Group.
We, of course, are talking about our recent report, Silver Lining in Radical Times. And we said silver lining when we brought this out at the beginning of the year because you and I were really looking at silver as really having some great potential. And it has, of course, performed very well along with gold. But, some recent information that came out today about jobs revisions for payrolls. And it revised it down by 911,000. I think last year's revision was 818,000. So you're seeing some big revisions and showing some different maybe data points on the economy. But you guys have been calling for it for a while. I'd kind of like to get your take on what that number means for the precious metals market. And does this mean we're heading into some of those recessionary times that you guys have been calling for the second half of this year or maybe early next year?
It's positive for gold and silver prices, but let me build up to that. I mean, the data revision indicates and verifies what a lot of groups and economists, including CPM Group, have been saying, which is that the U.S. economy has been weaker and has a weaker base than a lot of the data has suggested. And so today's revision just basically reaffirms, things are a lot shakier than we thought. Now, CPM Group has been saying for some time, as you said, that we thought that the political and economic environment would get even worse over the course of 2025 into 2026. And that's what's happening. So you've got gold today that we're talking, price is $3,700, and silver is well above $41. We've been saying that we thought that at some point the price of silver could spike back up to $50. And we've been saying that we thought that could happen at some point in the future. Well, as time has progressed, that projection is now this year in the next quarter. I mean, we would not be surprised to see the price at $48 or $50 an ounce, at least briefly, at some point in the next 3 months.
When you think about the mental hurdles some of our veteran silver investors have to get through, I've been investing in silver for many years, and you see some high spikes and then and big corrections. And you saw a lot of selling between 38 and 42 in the physical market. I mean, is this a time to buy right now at $41, $42 silver? Do you think we can still accumulate at 38, 37? What's our goal in the near term?
It's difficult for me because, my average acquisition price on my silver is really low. So it's kind of hard for me to say $41, $42 is a good price. That said, it is a good price if you're a facile investor. If you feel that you can buy at 41 and 42 with the expectation that you could sell it at a significant profit within 3 or 4 months at $48 or $50, that would be great. We see 3 kinds of investors when the price spikes. There's the guy who says, okay, I bought it at $10 or I bought it at $42 and now it's $50. It's going higher, so I'm going to hold it. And if the price falls back, he says, that's okay, it'll go back up someday. And he might wait 20 years, but you'll see that. There are other people who say, I'll sell it now with the expectation that I can buy it back at a much lower price within a few months because that's what's happened in the past. And then there are a third kind of people who say, well, I'm going to keep my metal, but I might put a hedge in place to take advantage of any pullback in the spot price. And what we've been seeing over the course of the year is a lot of our investors who were saying, well, if I see the price at $45, $50, I'm going to sell. And they're now saying, no, I'm not going to sell, because the state of the world that I thought would propel the price to prices above 40 is it's deteriorating at a rate faster than I expected, and it's worse than I expected. So I thought, well, things would get bad by 2024, 2025, and the price would spike to 40 or $50 and I'd sell. I'm not going to sell now because I don't think this is the end, because I don't see the economic and political environment getting better. And that's really the key. So we're seeing people start to hold, and we're seeing fewer people sell, because they're saying, okay, if I wait until tomorrow to sell, it looks like I'll get a higher price. And maybe I should just stop selling and maybe even start buying again.